Okay, test, test. I think I'm on. Okay, I think we're ready to get started this evening. And welcome to our Nampa City Council meeting. Thank you all for being here this evening. I love the tradition that we have here, and that is that we open in prayer. And I so appreciate Pastor Monty Sears with the Christian Faith Center for being here to open us in prayer this evening. So, Pastor Monty, thank you so much, and let's stand.
Thank you. Jesus, you informed us in Matthew chapter 6, in this manner, therefore pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Father, we pray over this city council meeting. We thank you for one of the premier communities in all America, Nampa, Idaho. And Father, the statement behind the city council and the mayor, in God we trust, Lord, we thank you that the values from the Word of God has made this such a great community to live in. Would you bless each and every person here? And Father, may your will be done regarding the docket tonight. Give the mayor, the city council wisdom tonight, and have your way. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. 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 Thank you.
Do you want to lead us in the pledge? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Monty, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Chingula. Here. Mills.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
Griffin. 5 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. I am not aware of any changes or proposed amendments to the agenda. Council, do you have any proposed amendments? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to adopt the agenda as stated.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And then consent agenda. I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Excuse me, flipping through here. Okay, we do have a couple of proclamations this evening, and the first proclamation is the Daughters of the Revolution Hidden Heroes Proclamation. And as I read the proclamation, I'll let you come forward and you can talk to us then. But we'll get started with the proclamation. Whereas the series of wars and conflicts in which our nation has been engaged over time since World War II has resulted in 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers who are parents, spouses, siblings, and friends caring for those wounded, ill, or injured who have served our nation, as documented by the 2014 RAND study commissioned by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. And whereas the daily tasks of these military and veteran caregivers can include bathing, feeding, dressing, and caring for the injuries of wounded warriors, administering medications, providing emotional support, caring for the family and the home, and working outside of the home to earn essential income. And whereas the nation provides multifaceted support to our wounded, our ill, and injured veterans and service members through public, private, and philanthropic resources, but their caregivers receive little support or acknowledgement. And whereas most military and veteran caregivers consider the challenging work they do as simply carrying out their civic and patriotic duty without realizing they are, in fact, caregivers and do not identify themselves as such. Whereas an alarming number of military and veteran caregivers, according to research, are suffering numerous debilitating mental, physical, and emotional effects as a result of their caregiving duties. Whereas the City of Nampa desires to recognize and support those who are serving in these vital roles in our community. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, do hereby announce our support of military and veteran caregivers in our communities. We encourage all who care for and support veterans and service members to extend their support to their caregivers. Thank you so much. So Janice, come on forward, and we will present this to you, and would you like to say a couple of words?
Well, thank you, Mayor and council people. Thank you, first and foremost, for getting behind this project. My name is Janice Beller. I am the state regent for the Daughters of the American Revolution here in Idaho, and I come to you with our appreciation for the 900 members across the state, our 15 chapters, one of which is here in Nampa, Idaho. Just very appreciative for your support of this initiative. We have 3 objectives with our program here in Idaho. Most folks have never heard of the term Hidden Heroes. Most folks who do this work, as was mentioned in the proclamation, don't see themselves as anything but a loving family member. So our main objectives have been to first help folks educate themselves on being a hidden hero, what that means, helping them to see themselves, to self-identify as hidden heroes. And then once they've done that, realize that there is a network of people out there who support them, who want them to be seen and to know that they are not alone, and then connect them with the resources that exist for them, not only in Idaho specifically, but also nationwide. And that's where the DAR has come on board. We've really done this public information campaign. In addition to gathering those resources available throughout the state, we've gathered those into a collection point, if you will, a specific website, hiddenheroesidaho.org, that allows a caregiver any time of day or night to be able to go out and to see those resources, those public and private organizations that are already there, standing guard and ready to help whenever they might need. We want to get them that information, and then we want to connect them through the Elizabeth Dole Foundation to the National Hidden Heroes community, that network of caregivers across the nation who are doing the same work and who know exactly the struggle that Idaho's military caregivers are facing. One particularly relevant part of our project is exactly what's happening here tonight. We are asking for proclamations of support from all of Idaho's 44 counties and from as many of Idaho's cities as possible. I'm pleased to let you know that you are the 31st city that has signed on as a Hidden Heroes community, and that's in addition to the 23 counties so far that have also signed on. It's impressive. If you look at a colored map of Idaho's counties and main cities, we've got a lot of support. Most importantly, our military caregivers have a lot of support. I expect nothing less from Idaho and her citizens, but again, you are a vital part of that here in Kangin County. And in fact, you are the first major city to sign on in Kangin County. So I thank you very much for that. And again, on behalf of Idaho's DAR members, thank you for all that you do to serve Idaho's military caregivers and your caregivers here in the Nampa area. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Why don't you have your team come forward, all of the DAR members, and let's do a photo.
Wonderful.
So council, come right here, and we'll do a quick photo, and we'll give you this. There you go. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you for all you do. Okay, here we go. Are we all in? Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
We'll see you, I think, in another couple of weeks. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Mike?
And we have another proclamation this evening. And as we get started, so whereas each year Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating histories, cultures, and countless contributions of Americans whose ancestors were indigenous to North America, including those from Mexico, the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. And whereas Hispanics have enriched and shaped our national character with traditions that span centuries, reflecting the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of their communities, while bringing their own distinct and dynamic perspectives to the story of our country. And whereas since the United States first celebrated National Hispanic Heritage Week 56 years ago, under President Lyndon Johnson, Hispanics have become an integral and thriving part of our diverse community. And whereas this month's theme, Pioneers of Change, Shaping the Future Together, reminds us of how our Hispanic community continues to shape our nation. As business owners, artists, public servants, and members of the U.S. military, Latinas and Latinos remain strong leaders and change makers. And whereas the Hispanics continue to make significant and diverse contributions to the cultural, educational, economic, and political vitality of the city of Nampa. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Debbie Kling, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th in the city of Nampa as Hispanic Heritage Month. We encourage all residents to honor the rich diversity of our Hispanic community and celebrate the many ways the Hispanic community contributes to our nation and our society. Mari, why don't you come forward, and then we'll do a photo with whoever wants to be up here.
Hello, Mari Ramos. On behalf of the Idaho Hispanic Foundation, I want to say thank you. Thank you for continuing to support not just the Idaho Hispanic Foundation, but myself and our community, Pioneers of Change. I love the theme this year for Hispanic Heritage Month because I do believe that the city of Nampa has been pioneers of change with us, right? Because together was the key word there. With the Idaho Hispanic Community Center, H2C, right? We're going to do such great things, or we're already doing such great things, and we were really grateful that the city of Nampa came together with us and are supportive. And we're going to do, we have our Community Resource Center that's starting, but not just that. It is also supporting all the different facets that come together to become this Hispanic community. So our Colombian community, our Peruvian community, Puerto Rican community, there is so much more there. That's why it changed from being a Hispanic Heritage Week to Hispanic Heritage Month, because there's so much more to learn, and that's something that we can do together. And then not only that, I like the Pioneers of Change as well, because we have our Hispanic community in all areas, not just in business, in agriculture, we have in technology, we have all these pioneers that are coming out here and just doing everything they can for their families, for their communities, for their business, for all of us, and we want to do it together as partners with our cities and with all of our communities. So thank you for being so open to that, for working with us and working together with us and helping us celebrate, because that's a big part of our community, is celebrating. And so with that, I do want to invite you in person. We have our celebration of the Hispanic Heritage Month happening there at the Idaho Hispanic Community Center on Friday, the 13th of September from 4 to 6. We'll have the Mexican consulate there, and we're going to start off a celebration and just kick off this month. So please join us, and you'll receive a formal invitation also as well soon. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Come forward and we'll give you this and we'll take a picture, Enrique. You guys, your team needs to come forward. And Marty, thank you for all you do. You have been a pioneer and it is greatly appreciated. So here we go. It's so good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, I think we got it down. Are you getting Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We do have, I'm not going to read the next proclamation, but I do want to reference a proclamation that will come and be read, and this is recognizing our law enforcement officers, and it is the Elevate Our Heroes Day that takes place on September 11th, and so this will be coming at a later time. They will be reading the proclamation. And we just appreciate Elevate Our Heroes and the work that they've done each year. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward. The next item on our agenda is the public forum. And do we have some people signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do. We have 2 people signed up for non-agenda items, and our first speaker is Robert Kuhn.
Good evening, Robert. Go ahead and give us your name again and your address, and thank you for being here.
Okay, my name is Robert Kuhn. I live at 121 Hudson Avenue. And the reason I'm up here is because the noise. During the day, we have a neighbor that just blares his music into her house where it just shakes and stuff. Just recently, I just had 2 heart attacks. And I've asked him time and time again to stop. When he told me that, it's not him stressing me out, it's me stressing me out. And I'm not the only one. I've talked to so many other neighbors, and they're getting tired of it, and it's it doesn't stop. And he's just been becoming a nuisance around there during the day. It's just, especially 12 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock at night, he just comes by with his music blaring up loud. I've called dispatch. They can catch him long enough where he's blasting it. And my concern is because our health issue is more important than his music. And somehow it has to stop. And I don't know what else to do to come up here and talk to you guys and have that stop, because I looked at the Idaho code thing where anything that amplifies sound and where it vibrates through our homes, windows, it's not cool. So if you guys could just help, that'd be awesome. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for reaching out to our office. I appreciate it. So I think we've passed it on, and there have been some discussions around it, but you've done the right thing coming here and letting us know, and we appreciate that. And sorry that you're dealing with what you're dealing with, but we will look on our side of what, if there's something we can do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Street name again?
Hudson Avenue.
Hudson, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Holly Hawes.
Good evening, Holly, and thank you for again stating your name again and your address.
It's nice to be here. Along with hearing the music from the loud, it's not just music,
I'm
it's
sorry.
the beat from the car.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Holly Hawes. I live on 120 Hudson Avenue, apartment B. I'm in the middle and I sleep with earplugs, so I don't usually hear the beat of the car. But what I do notice during the day is the speed of people going up and down that street, and there's little children playing right on the edge. If they ran out for a ball, there would be no chance of helping them. And it's not just little children. There are a lot of elderly people. One woman that lives next to me has lived her whole life with polio, and she really is very active, but she's not able to walk quickly. And if she were walking across the street or even on the side of the street, she would never be able to get out of the way fast enough. And that's my observation. I like to walk. I walk 3 times a day usually, and I have to cross the street, so I'm not against the traffic. But there have been times when it seems like they're going 80 miles an hour. I don't know what they're going, but I know they're not going 20. Anyway, I thought if there's any way to encourage a speed bump or cameras or anything that would help, because I know our officers are overwhelmed, and there must be a way to help make it safer in our neighborhood. And it's not just our street. Smith, as well as the one on the other side, are running into the same issues. In fact, the other street put their own little 20-mile-an-hour signs to try and help, but it's like it's a thoroughfare, a shortcut for a lot of people, and even big trucks. I almost got hit twice, two different times in the same week, by the double length that are being pulled trucks. And I was it said pedestrian crossing, and so it's green, so I started out and went right in front of me both times, and I thought, it's not safe. There needs to be a way to make people more aware of the issues before one of our kids get killed or one of our elderly people gets killed, and not after. I would hope not to wait until after. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I tell you my, oh, I did tell my address.
You did. I'd encourage you, though, if you have a big pup truck like that coming through, that you see goes through a pedestrian walk, get the name of the company right on the side, and if you can capture and call the company and let them know, because usually the owner of the company wants to know that.
Okay, I definitely will do that. In fact, I've even thought about putting my little lawn chair out on the edge and taking pictures with my camera. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, we do not have any other advanced signups for public forum.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that had not signed up that wanted to speak this evening on a non-agenda item or an agenda item? Seeing none, we will move on. We don't have any agency and commission reports, but Rodney, we'll let you give us your quick staff report from Planning and Zoning this week. Thank you all for being here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have several projects that came before the Planning and Zoning Commission on the 27th of August that I'll just run through quickly. The first one was on Autumn Leaf subdivision, and that one was at 3215 East Cushing Lane, and that one was approved by the commission. And that is scheduled for your consent agenda, was scheduled for your consent agenda tonight. The next one is the Ridgeview North subdivision, and that's on Franklin and Linden. That's an RD zone and RS6 zone, and that was on a total of 235 buildable lots with 49 common lots. And that one was recommended for approval. That will come before you on the 18th of November for a public hearing. The next one was a connection to city services, and this was just for a small single-family home at 2601 East Amity Avenue. And then that one was recommended for approval, and it's tentatively scheduled for the 4th of November, and I believe that will happen on the 4th. We've got some things we're working with the county on, but I think that will still move forward. The next one is the Bella Lane South subdivision, and this is some existing apartments that were developed, and then they are just dividing them out, 4 of the apartments out into each building a separate parcel. And so that one was approved, and it's scheduled for the consent agenda on the 16th of September for you. And then finally, a conditional use permit for the expansion of Jeremy's Arcade in our downtown historic zone, and that one was approved as well.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Rodney on any of these items? Nope. Thank you so much, Rodney. And as you guys know, this is a new thing that we're doing, which is just providing council updates from our planning and zoning meetings. So, Rodney, thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, we're going to move on to our new business item 7.1 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is a consideration of a request for exemption to subdivision standards under Nampa City Code 10-27-2. Is it I.2? Make sure I say it correct. Related to the landscape buffer along Railroad Street for White Pine Townhouses subdivision in a limited multifamily residential zoning district, 0.32 acres on 2 parcels. And it's addressed as 1722 East Railroad Street and 11 18th Avenue North. This is Penelope Constantikes, representing White Pine Construction. So are you on for Christy tonight? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mayor,
Thank you.
I should have told you that. Christy's out sick today, so I'm covering all her agenda items, so be patient with me. So this one, you can see it here. The area to the left there, East Railroad Street, is a local road, and they're just requesting that that setback, that landscape buffer, be a little bit smaller than is required by code. So a landscape buffer is just on private property that abuts the right-of-way. And then it says specifically in code that it shall not be allowed to include the public sidewalks. That should be, the public sidewalk should be outside of that buffer area. And so they're asking for an exception to that. And this is the setback that's required is 15 feet. Here's the location of this property. There's actually 2 properties there that they're developing on. And you can see it's right up against Railroad Street and then, of course, the railroad. And it's in the RML zone. It has been approved, December of 2022, they approved the design review for the King's Townhomes with the condition that this would be platted into townhouses and not just be apartments there. So in June and July of 2024, the P&Z Commission and City Council approved the plat with conditions that the landscaping issues be resolved. And here's just an aerial view of that property. And then their proposal here, you can see there that 15-foot landscaping buffer does include the sidewalk, which is the exception that they're requesting. And if you were to deny this request, the 15-foot would have to start at that point where the yellow arrow is. The intent is to still retain the 15-foot, according to them, but include the 5-foot sidewalk on there. The applicant has stated that they've worked with their designers to try to create a layout that would meet code. They were successful in every way except for this setback and landscape buffer. So here are a couple motions for your consideration, and I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Rodney. Council, do you have any questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
Rodney, just a question on the site plan itself. It appears these are rear-loaded units as far as the garage is off of an alley-like road system in the back. What is the requirement to meet setbacks along that side? Is it 20 feet, or is it 20 feet from the center line, or is there another factor need to be brought into play as far as for parking on the rear of these units?
Yeah, so they are providing a driveway, and that has to be the 20-foot setback. And then they are providing single car garages as well. So that's how they get their other.
Okay, so that, again, I was wondering if this was a mirror image on the other side of what's being proposed, but it's not? This is, okay, so it's just loaded from one side.
Yeah.
So the driveway itself, the parking slab, the parking is within the units themselves, is that correct?
That's correct.
So they're two-car garage, not just
No,
single?
I'm sorry. From what I could tell, and I'm hoping the applicant is here, are they?
Behind you.
They are behind you.
Okay, they might be able to answer that specific question. I just took this on at the last second today. But what I could tell is that they were providing a driveway and a single-car garage. But
Rodney, the applicant did come up and state that they are providing 2-car garages on these units.
oh, okay.
Okay, and since they're
mistake.
townhouses, there's no additional parking required since they're single
Yeah,
family?
in this small of a project and one that's already been approved, yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? So this is not a public hearing, this is strictly an action item. And so what is the will of the council?
Mayor, I move that we approve the exception to subdivision standards for landscape buffer width along East Railroad Street to be 15 feet, including the 5-foot sidewalk for 1722 East Railroad Street and 11th to 18th Avenue North. For Penelope Constantnikes, representing White Pine Construction Developments, LLC owner. SBS 00055-2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I believe my questions were answered, so I'm fine.
You're good? Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
I'd like to go ahead and move through at least maybe 7.2, 7.3, and 4 possibly. 7.2 is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution for the 4.3% consumer price index rate increase for existing airport rental hangars and land leases for FY25.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
Question?
Yes, discussion.
It seems like the 4.3 consumer price index is still behind the 8 ball. And my question is, should we not be up in the 6 or 7% rate increase?
Thank you. And Lindsay and Crystal are here and ready to provide a response to that.
I realize there's a motion, et cetera, but from what I see, it seems like we're still behind the curve.
Good evening, Council. The land leases are tied to a specific CPI index that we use to adjust the leases. That index for the last full year of data we have is 2023, which is at 4.3%. We can't go above that for the land leases. For the city rentals, we could go higher if that was the council's discretion to do so. Last year, we did do a pretty significant rate increase to our rental hangars. Outside of that CPI increase, some of those went up about 20%. That's why we stayed with that CPI index on the rental hangars this year.
Mayor, question?
Yes.
So Lindsay, I need clarification. You're saying that the language in the lease is calling for that particular CPI index?
Yes, it does.
And that index runs 1 to 2 years behind the...
We look at the last full year of data that we have available, which the full year of data we have is 2023. Currently, we don't have a full year of data for 2024. That's why we don't use the numbers from 2024. The year before, the increase was for that full year was 8%. So we're always, when we're looking at our fiscal year 25, we're looking basically 2 calendar years behind it. It's 23. Next year for fiscal 26, we'll be looking at the data for the calendar year of 2024.
Well, my encouragement would be that consideration be given to more update index and/or what's happening as far as the lease changes. I understand that's cumbersome, but it seems like we're behind, and when we went through budget, there was issues with the airport and the needs, and I would just support a little higher increase.
We are happy to look at additional or other indexes for future leases to come to the council with. So.
Thank you. Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you. What I'm concerned about, as well as with the 4.3% consumer price, how does this equal to the current inflation? It seems like we're really underneath what that is, so we're not gaining anything by doing this. I agree with Councilman Bills that we need to increase that, but can you explain as to why that didn't increase as the inflation did? Because it's based on that.
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez. So as Lindsay explained, we have to look at it as a full year. So we're accounting for the inflation from 2 years ago, and 2 years from now we'll look at this year's inflation. So eventually we will catch up. It just hasn't been our standard practice to do it. And we look at the annual average, so we're not picking and choosing a specific month that may be higher or lower on that CPI index. And then to address Councilman Bills' comment earlier, in FY25, if you take out any of the renovations or the upkeep that is going to need to be done in the city-owned hangars, the airport is self-sustaining for this next year.
Okay, thank you.
Which I understand, but from the standpoint, we're doing work in 2025, we're approving budgets with 2025 statistics. The prices, when you go to bid, are going to be reflective of that, and yet our rental side is 2 years behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
I'm just bringing it up and encouraging that we look towards an index that is current. So,
thank you.
What we might do is actually at some point come back with some information. It can be just sending an email back out to council as to how we chose that index and what it would take if we were to review consider any change to which index we're relying on. So thank you for that follow-up. So the action item before us is to approve or sign the resolution for the 4.3% consumer price index rate increase. And it has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bills.
No.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and do these next two with Cody before we move into public hearings, and then the rest will cover after public hearings. But 7.3 is an action item. It's the Parks and Recreation requests the City Council authorization for the mayor to sign a contract with Compliance Solutions and Contracting for both the base bid and the bid alternate for Midway Park Phase 3 construction for the amount of $4,144,266.04. And this is approved through park impact fees for FY24 and FY25 budgets. And Cody, I guess we'll start by saying, council, do you have any questions for Cody on this one?
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and Councilman Haverfield.
Cody, I think we discussed a few months back how dark the parking areas are at some of our parks and how that draws activity that is not the type of activity that we want to have in city-owned property. When we asked about the Midway Park, I remember asking about the entrances specifically, that the proper illuminance was available as far as people come and go, but the balance of the parking lot seems to be dark. When I drove by the other night, it doesn't appear that there is substantial site lighting around the perimeter of this park, especially in the parking areas. So I was wondering what what's being spent here that's going to provide a solution to the lack of good lighting.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, this contract does not include any parking lot lighting.
So at what point in time are we going to see that take place? Because it's really important, I believe, because it draws police activity that is, if proper lighting was there, we probably wouldn't be seeing that. The lack of illuminance could cause accidents as well after dark. So I think that's a very important feature to have been left out if it's not included in this proposal. So I don't know if that could be corrected, if it could be an additional emphasis going forward. We need to do something about it specifically out there because of the complaints that we've already heard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilman Haverfield. I think that could probably be looked at in a future phase. This is not going to complete the park, this phase 3. This is for a fourplex and a food truck area. There's still a planned phase 4 to come, but that was not considered when the scope was drafted for this phase.
Mayor, follow up then. When can we expect the phase 4 to come before council in impact fees or whatever it's going to be funded by?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, timeline hasn't been set yet based on the priorities of spending the impact fees. I know looking forward, there was the planned purchase of a potential soccer park facility with that, and so I don't think Darren and I have not had specific conversations on timelines for that phase 4.
So I think
Doesn't take away my concern, but
I think so noted, though, and thank you for so noting the concern and the consideration and maybe getting back with Councilmember Haverfield regarding the timing and when that possibly could be addressed. So
Certainly.
Thank you for your comments. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
What is the status? I know we were having some issues with the irrigation on the grass and moving into the next phase. Has that been mitigated before we're laying down more sod, and are we going to expect any issues there?
Yes, Mayor, Councilman Griffin, that has been addressed. We did install a new filtration system over the course of last winter off-season, and we had some struggles with that early on and into the hot part of the year. We have had some successes with getting the correct filter size and water flow for that, and we do believe now we can pump enough gallons to adequately irrigate this additional acreage.
Thank you.
Mayor, just one
Yes.
last follow-up. In that this came in under our budget, the dollars, the delta dollars between what the budget was and what we're actually considering tonight, what happens to those funds?
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, I believe those funds just stay in the park's impact fee.
Okay, so you could
balance.
possibly come back with addressing the parking lighting then with the dollars that were saved by virtue of the bid process. Is that what I'm
I
hearing?
believe we could.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thank
Mayor-
you. Yes.
Mayor, question. I remember when we were talking about pickleball courts and having the lighting, we couldn't have lighting there past dark because it's not in our code. This doesn't affect that, right? Is there any action that needs to be taken from us in order to generate this lighting issue?
Mayor and Councilwoman Jangula, that's a great question. Because this property is still in the county and part of the conditional use permit on the property was told to the county when we first got that permit that lighting would not be included in the park. I think we were specifically thinking sports fields like the pickleball courts or the baseball fields themselves. We would likely need to check back with the county to see if parking lot lighting would violate that stipulation or not.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the table. If there's no further discussion, roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
7.4 is an action item, and this is the Parks and Recreation requesting that the City Council reject all bids for the construction of a new irrigation well at Ridgecrest Golf Course.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The remainder of the new business items we will hold until after public hearing, and we will step now into our public hearings. Our first public hearing, 8.1, is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to Community Business Zoning District and a potential development agreement for a future commercial complex at 4379 East Franklin Road. This is for Jeff Hatch, Hatch Design Architecture, representing Peter and Lynn Glidden. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Hi. Go ahead and come forward. Thank you so much. Good evening, Jeff. As you know how to do this, go ahead and give us your name and address again, and we'll start.
Good evening, Jeff Hatch with Hatch Design Architecture. My address is 5119 Briarcrest Drive, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. Madam Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for your consideration of our annexation application this evening. The proposed site is directly west of the new Highway 16. I guess it would be the interchange with I-84. And so this is a fairly transitional space at the moment. There's a lot of construction, there's a lot of dirt being moved around, there's a lot of development going on. We actually had a pre-application meeting about two and a half years ago on this property. And at that time, the planning department recommended that we go through annexation in an industrial nature. Since then, when we approached them more recently, that view has changed and really wanted this to be part of that gateway district and recommended that we propose annexation as the BC zone. So our proposed project right now is in that GB1 zoning map overlay with the commercial zone. And so that recommendation from industrial or light industrial has been transitioned, and we'd be proposing annexation or suggesting to the BC zone to optimize what type of flexibility and uses for our community and pedestrians using that highway corridor would be best used. So with that, we did present, this would be rotating north is to the left, our site. We would be at least currently anticipating proposing a multi-use commercial building located at the shaded location, which is building A, and then building out a series of other flex buildings in a similar nature as development continues. Here's a concept site plan or rendering. So this would be an elevation of one of those buildings. And so versus the more industrial nature of the structures around here, adding a lot more glass, adding opportunity for a second floor to these should you have a business that wants to have an office upstairs, and adding more storefront for more of a retail or commercial opportunity. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Clayton.
Thank you so much. Yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Jeff, can you go back to your first slide for the comp plan overlay? Keep going. There you go.
Okay.
Your proposed site location, there's property on either side, east and west. Are they looking to go to a BC zone as a part of this application as well?
At this time, they are not. They're independently owned properties by other individuals. We did have the gentleman to the east come to our neighborhood meeting, and he was not interested at this time. The gentleman to the west, I didn't get any feedback from them.
Currently, the rest of the GB zone, are they in a GB1 zone?
They would be in the overlay for that, but it's an enclave at this,
So it's not,
time.
it's not annexed yet, just your
They are not.
property?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Hatch at this time? Thank you so much. You know that you'll be back. So thank you. Rodney, thank you. And as you come forward, I'm just thinking about the question that Councilman Haverfield just asked. It'd be interesting to see what the recommendation from planning and zoning staff would be related to those when they do come in, that they would be recommending a similar.
Okay, sorry about that. Mayor and council, the project before you, you've heard the description. I think he did a really good job of describing what he's requesting. To the north is Canyon County Ag Land, just across the street of Franklin Road. Franklin Road is is zoned already, but it doesn't really count as the access for it being contiguous. It's really to the south and southeast. So to the south is GB1 zone. This is primarily a GB1 area. We have had some, a couple of years ago, right as we heard about State Highway 16 coming in, you approved some developments to the east that were IL, but for the most part, most of this is truly GB1 zone. Single-family residence and State Highway 16 to the east. To the west is Canyon County single-family residence. Excuse me. There are services in the area. Again, this is Christie, so I'm trying to figure out how she handles the displays, but I don't see any displays for utilities. But there are utilities in the area. They're being constructed right now as part of the State Highway 16 development and some work we're doing. And then a traffic study is required, or it may be required depending on what use goes in here. So that's a critical principle here. We don't know exactly what is being proposed here. We just know the structure, and we know the zone that they're requesting. So the Nampa Fire District does not oppose this application. They've pointed out their travel times of 8 minutes and the income that they would receive, approximately $55,400 for the fire district with impact fees. Engineering division, they gave all of their conditions, pretty standard conditions, and I have those listed on a later slide here. ITD does not object to the establishment of industrial use on this parcel. That's inaccurate. This is a commercial use, but again, their comments reflect the fact that it's a flex building, that potentially some other uses could go in there. ITD needs more information to determine how this proposed use will impact the future State Highway 16 Franklin Road interchange, and that will be done at time of a building permit. They'll have to or occupancy to identify what their use is, and then the impact fees will be assessed at that point, and the study will be done for what the use will do with traffic.
Rodney, could we pause right there, just so I understand what you just shared? So ITD has some say over that land use?
No, they're trying to give comments about how the traffic will impact the state roadways.
Okay.
So in order to do that, they're saying, we're not doing a traffic impact study at this point, but it will be done in the future when they identify the land use.
If the trips are more than 100 per.
Correct, yep. We'll assess that when they come in with their permit and say, okay, does it meet this qualification to run a traffic impact study?
Okay, and they do have their access point off of Franklin Road confirmed?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So a comprehensive plan is commercial in this area. You can see that little cutout for industrial based on the project that was approved a couple years ago, but the rest of this is commercial. And then this is the location. This is also in the State Highway 16 specific area plan. And so once this, as he stated, once we went through that specific area plan, we identified this not as industrial, but as commercial in this one section. Okay, let's see. So although this project is asking for the BC zoning, staff requests that it abide by the GB1 zoning bulk standards for landscape buffers and setbacks. Freestanding signs are prohibited in the Highway 16 specific area plan, and according to the specific area plan, will need to meet design review standards and maintain a traditional design style. Trying to remember if there's anything else on here that we need to cover. Don't think so. Again, it's BC rather than the GB that's in the specific area, but it does meet the comprehensive plan designation and the specific area plan designation. It just is a little different than the zoning in the area. So again, that's the rendering and the layout of the lot. You can see their access up there. See, I noticed that this comment here, 65 feet from the property line that is adjacent to Highway 16, this actually doesn't abut State Highway 16, so I just said it does not apply. But a 20-foot deep landscape buffer with a berm is recommended along East Franklin Road to match adjacent GB1 zone property standards. The landscape plan will be reviewed at time of building permits. And then this is a really helpful slide to just kind of analyze some of the projects or the land uses, the land uses that are just outright permitted or conditionally permitted in the BC zone versus the GB1 zone. So if you wanted to look at this to say how, are there any concerns, this is available to you in your packet. And I can pause there if you need to, or we can come back to it.
Mayor, I have a couple of questions. So I think it was stated that the connectivity, as far as for city contiguous, is on the south. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that GB1 on the south is also, all that red area is already annexed. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me go back to that slide. That's a really important principle. Yeah, so all of that area right there that's kind of a pink is the GB1 zone. And what I'm saying is Franklin Road is also pink. It's annexed in, but we don't usually look at a roadway for the connection to the city.
Okay, so a follow-up then question is, to the east, the property that is yet to be annexed would require a cross-access agreement over this property, would it not, to be able to be far enough away from that intersection?
I could defer to engineering on that one.
So that is negotiated. The state has purchased right-of-way there, and they have negotiated access points for those parcels. Typically, if the property there to the west or to the east was not granted a access by the state, they would have purchased an easement for a cross-access there, and that's something you may want to ask the applicant if that's what's happened there. I'm not
'cause
100% sure on that parcel.
that would be my assumption, is that there would be a cross-access agreement from that lot that's yet to be annexed across this parcel to be able to get the access onto Franklin far enough removed from Highway 16. And then back to your point that you're asking for a 20-foot landscape buffer, the site plan indicated 15. So again, that's just, it's a pinch point there with that building F as it's configured down the road, that there's not enough flow through nor fire engine access to be able to turn back around building F to the west to get out that entrance. So that's just in the future, not this first building. But again, it's just some issues that might need to be considered down the road. Want to make sure if there is something that we need to include in a development agreement, or at least an understanding that we state that tonight.
Yeah, and Mayor and Councilman, you could do that with a condition or a development agreement.
So we need to state that tonight then, okay?
Yeah.
Mayor, question.
Yes.
So Rodney, everything that's in pink right now, you're saying it's GB1. Is that by comp plan, or is that physically, all that land is annexed and physically zoned GB1?
It's actually annexed and zoned already. So the GB1 is the zoning, the commercial designation is the comprehensive plan. So you can see that there. This is the comprehensive plan. It's all commercial. The GB1 is the zoning that's already annexed, all those properties. And actually, a good portion of these were annexed, years and years ago.
So the fact the comp plan had commercial, this being zone commercial, it's in alignment.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
But this being community business.
Yeah, correct. And so the commercial designation in the comprehensive plan allows for multiple different types of zones, and a couple of those are GB1 and BC. The thing that staff is concerned about is just that the buffer along there, that was intended to be a gateway into Nampa, and so that landscape buffer with the berm and all those standards are intended to beautify Nampa as we have a gateway into our community.
So it's Highway 16 connecting to Franklin?
It is, yeah. This will eventually be an interchange.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So Rodney, are we in effect spot zoning, or are we affecting the GB1? I think this is a good project, but I'm just wanted to know what the result effect, the cause and effect will be down the road.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. The rule for spot zoning is, does it match the comprehensive plan? Does the zone match the comprehensive plan? And this request does. So it can be different than what's already there. The question for staff, again, is just, does it match everything? The intent of that area to be a gateway, are we getting that gateway feel? And so you could put conditions on there. You could put a development agreement on here. That either of those options are fine.
Oh, follow up, Mayor. So what if it's residential?
It would not match the comprehensive plan.
It wouldn't match. So in sense, we are affecting the other development in that area then?
No.
No?
It's already zoned for commercial, the GB1. The only ones that are not consistent are the ones that are in the county still and haven't come into the city
okay.
yet.
That was my concern. Okay, thank you.
If they came in to the city and they're residential right now, they could continue to be residential as a legal non-conforming use. But once they go to develop the property at all, they would have to comply with our standards.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So Rodney, a question that I alluded to a little bit earlier has to do with, for the other two properties, the one on the east and one on the west, when they come in for annexation, will you be recommending that they align with what we're doing here today?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. And then, is the applicant aware of the request for the GB1 landscape requirements?
I believe so. I think that was at the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. This is, again, I just took this on today,
know.
but I believe so.
Well, I thought Jeff can come back and mention that and also address the cross-access easement. Yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Just as a follow-up for the land use, the two zones, the BC and the GB1, you had stated that they would need to comply with the GB1, but that's just the street frontage landscape. So I guess what we're talking about here is the BC zone criteria for land use would apply here. Because looking at the GB1, the only item that is permitted that is not permitted in the BC is the agricultural general use. Everywhere, everything else is only approved by conditional use, where the BC would be allowed uses in many cases. So just wanted to make sure that that distinction is stated.
That's correct. The recommendation from staff is that we have those landscape improvements, but the land uses, those are up to you, and we're not concerned about those because it's a commercial area.
Okay, and then back to my, the cross-access from that eastern lot, that would be something that we would need to state tonight, that just along the frontage, they would have to have cross-access, not along the rear side of the properties as they connect. Is that correct?
Again, that's something you can decide. I look to engineering again on that one.
So Crystal was able to pull up, and it's not the final, but one of the drawings that we have of the Highway 16 stuff does appear to show a cross-access between these two properties. So I would assume that that is something that ITD has already put in place, but it would not, I don't think it would hurt to have a condition in the annexation or development agreement that if it's not in place, that they would require, that they would grant that. And we could certainly look at that prior to the reading of the ordinance on this to report back whether ITD has already established that. And if they have, then at that point, that would not be needed.
So would the traffic impact study be triggered by that eastern property along with this property at the same time, not knowing that it's coming into the city right now? I think it should be factored in if there's a cross-access there and the amount of vehicles that might be generated from that eastern side be considered.
So certainly if a traffic impact study is triggered and there is a cross-access there, we would require that to be looked at with that traffic study for, okay, what are we looking at for both of these properties? It's a bit of a challenge if the other neighbor is not participating, but we would at least have some acknowledgement of that in the traffic impact study and set it up for having it re-looked at when the other property came in with something different.
So is that access point onto Franklin a full access then?
As far as I know, yes, but that's something we will have to confirm with ITD. The applicant may know that already, but I don't have specific knowledge on that right now.
Thank you.
And it just from my quick glance at this site plan, it does look like that top eastern corner there is, it appears to be an access where it could connect to the
It's
property.
just building, it's building F that's the issue. It's too tight to that through lane. The other thing too is it appears that there's a joint access along the western boundary line of this property with the property to the west. So I think potential is there as well that the property to the west is gaining egress and off the property from that same location. So again, when you look at your traffic study, it's maybe all three properties, not just two.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other questions for Rodney at this time?
I don't think we covered the recommended conditions of approval, but
Okay.
those are in your packet, and I'm happy to cover any of those if you have questions.
Thank you. And one thing I might mention to council, and it's going back to the permitted uses in community business versus GB1. There really is a considerable difference in what is permitted in community business versus GB1. GB1, a lot of the uses are conditional uses that they're automatically approved. And so that might be just something for council to look at. If you go right there, if you look at BC, there's a number of items that under GB1 would only be allowed with a conditional use permit. Under this, they're actually permitted. So that might be something for council to take into consideration as we consider how to move forward.
Mayor, comment?
Yes.
It seems that we're,
Although we might not want to have discussion yet.
I'll wait.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay. I just wanted to I thought maybe you want to leave it here. So yes, well, in just a minute. So if there are no further questions for Rodney, we are going to move into public hearing. And Shar, what do we have?
Madam Mayor, we do not have any advance signups for this item.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that did not get signed up that intended to speak on this item this evening? I do not see anyone. Okay, with that, Jeff, if you'd like to come forward and you can answer a couple of the questions that came up in our discussion, and then we'll move into our discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. I'll briefly touch on a couple of the items that were discussed, and then if there's any additional questions, feel free to ask. As far as the conditions of the setback, for the GB1, we're in favor of that. And really, from our pre-application meeting a couple of years back, this really could have been annexed as industrial land, similar to the property to the east. And at that time, the staff recommended that if we could wait, and the applicant chose to do so. So with this application, the recommendation for the BC was an exercise in coordination with city staff. And we feel that this gives a greater flexibility for that intersection in this area as far as what uses can be applied over just a straight industrial use. As far as the GB1 setback, part of the reason why we're proposing to start kind of in the middle of the property and then develop is because the frontage is kind of unknown with ITD. At the time of this application, they are still working through their design for that intersection and how they're going to lay out those access points. That's defined further, but even if we're doing a traffic memo, the access points will be determined with ITD in coordination. How they view that and how they view the adjacent properties. I just did one in Garden City where they wanted trip generation from places I didn't even know you would calculate from. So they may be looking at it even greater than what we're considering from an intersection standpoint because there's so much going on with that intersection. We're in favor of the traffic impact study when that becomes a factor with ITD for their approval. If council wants to address the cross-access agreement now, I feel very confident that ITD will definitely require that to some capacity in the future prior to us moving forward with any improvements. And as far as that full access, most of the discussion that we've had with ITD, which has just been verbal, so has not been confirmed, is that it will be a full access temporarily with a ride-in, ride-out solution in the future. And I will stand for any additional questions.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have additional questions for Jeff at this time?
Mayor,
Yes.
a couple. Jeff, as far as that Building F footprint, that's not set in stone at this point, I would assume?
Councilman Hamberfield, that is correct.
Okay, so as far as setbacks, I can speak to staff as far as what the proposed setback would be. The preferred setback would be, as far as for Building F off of Franklin, we have a 20-foot buffer, but I would imagine you're going to need to leave 20 to 30, maybe 30 feet wide as far as for a drive around that eastern end, northeastern end of Building F. But the cross-access agreement that we are speaking about to the property to the east, property to the west, do you know if there's preferred cross-access agreement across your property as well from the west to have one curb access for all three properties?
Councilman Haverfield, at this time, we do not know if their design would require additional access or if they're trying to merge these.
So what you've shown on your site plan would basically tell me that that's what the intent is, because you've got half of a curb access indicated. So you don't know for sure at this point?
Based on what they physically pushed and started building out there, that's more or less what we tried to depict there. But again, the traffic memo and really that entire frontage is subject to change substantially. They may go to a whole frontage road concept as well. So that's why we're really proposing to start development towards the middle of the property so that that will get resolved with a traffic impact study with ITD.
So I forgot to ask staff when they spoke, as far as landscape setbacks along the eastern and western boundary lines with those other adjoining properties, you've shown none as far as for landscaping. And maybe I need to go back to staff so that we can get a definition as to what is going to be required, if anything. Unless you have, which it doesn't appear that you have on your site plan, a shared drive lane on the western side. You've got a 20-foot or almost a 30-foot setback from the property line, no landscape shown. So what was your intent there? Do you have anything in mind?
Councilman Haverfield, this time we're really just depicting the intent of the construction of Building A. The balance of this is a suggestion of what we would like to propose, but with that annexation originally being from industrial and then GB to BC, the intent would be moving forward that all development on this property would comply with the setbacks in its designated zone.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Mayor?
Yes.
So, and this might be a question directly for the applicant, but I also think it's a question for us. Just looking at the motion, are we binding this project specifically to the 6-building site plan? Because it's only talking about the zoning and the annexation in that motion, so we could approve their zoning and annexation, and then later on it could become anything else that's listed on this BC, correct? Or are we binding them to this site plan that's been proposed?
I guess, Mayor and Council, I think you could clarify that in your motion if you want. If you're stuck to this site plan, I think you could condition that it substantially comply with the site plan, since it's an annexation, and you could put a development agreement on it. If you're not, I think you just need to be specific in what you would like.
Well, and not targeting one thing or the other that's just on this list, but I'm just going through the whole, down the line. We could approve it tonight without saying specifically this site plan's meant for business commercial of the 6 buildings. Without having that detail, they could just go and build a mobile home, RV sale, manufacturer site there because it's not tied to the specific. We're just giving them the annexation and zoning to BC, correct?
Well, we could tie it to the conceptual design that they have provided, because what I think I'm gathering is there's a conceptual design that you've shown us, what you would like the buildings to look like, but until they fully understand the ITD access and what's happening, it's very difficult to state what's happening, especially on that north side. So there's going to have to be some flexibility, which is why they're doing it in the middle. Can we tie it, though, to conceptually, you've got a nice design there that looks really nice for a building that they're looking to do. Were you intending all of the buildings to be similar to that one?
Mayor Clean, Madam Mayor, at this time, yes, that is the intent. And if you choose to move forward with requiring a DA, we would want to at least clearly identify that this was a concept for annexation, and we would really want to substantially comply with the BC requirements. Speaking to Councilmember Griffin, if you don't like mobile home parks for this property, we're more than happy to strike that as one of those uses.
Well, and there's a lot of things I don't like on this list, but that wasn't one of the ones that I was going for. I just was saying in generalization that we could say, okay, this is a concept right now, but we could get feedback back and it's not the whole project or that specific design wouldn't be viable altogether. So we're just going to pick another BC item off the list and run with it. So more so what Mayor had asked and reconfirmed, yes, this is the plan, this is where we're moving forward, and that could be something that's discussed in the development agreement.
Mayor, may I interject here? I would just recommend also the elevations that are proposed, that those be tied to this if that's what you want to see. Even if you don't do the site plan as has been recommended, that you at least include that elevation as a direction for the applicant to follow.
Yes. And
I
David,
didn't
are
think we
you?
were having discussion yet, so.
We're not, we're asking questions. And so, David, do you have, so
No, I'll wait to make my comment.
I guess once we close public hearing, unless we need to bring the applicant back. Yes, are these,
If I may.
yes, go ahead.
Just a couple of responses, and then, council, this is the time, if you do have particular things or you want to tie it to a site plan with some flexibility, that discussion with the applicant's appropriate now to kind of see what they're thinking. But as the applicant mentioned, if there's something that particularly concerns you, you could strike it. If there's something that is more, you would like to see a conditional use permit instead of an allowed use, you could do that as well. So you have some flexibility with that DA.
Okay, so, and just to be clear, so right now is a time to ask the applicant specific questions, and then we'll move to discussion, so.
So I'd like to ask,
Councilman Haverfield and Griffin.
since he's still standing there, I'd like to ask a question on the landscape setbacks
Okay.
of Rodney, and then that way he can respond as well. So Rodney, what are the required setbacks in a BC zone for adjacent properties to the east, west, and south? We've already talked about what we'd like along the frontage. Is there a requirement for landscape?
Mayor and council, I placed on the screen here the setbacks from any residential districts. The requirement for this is only for somewhere that has been already annexed into the city. So you're not looking at county properties that are residential currently. Since there's no residential district in that area, this does not apply. So then you go back to the requirements in, I think she placed it in here, maybe not. I don't see the setbacks required in here. Let me see if I can pull those up. Oh, here they are. So commercial or commercial slash residential is the front setback is going to be your adjacent to a collector or arterial is 20 feet, and then side or rear is going to be adjacent to another commercial or residential is 0 feet.
So, Mayor, just follow up then. Rodney, since there isn't a designated use for those properties yet, is it safe to assume that it would be BC?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I think you could assume that it's going to be either, it's going to be some kind of a commercial use.
Okay.
A commercial zone of some
So
kind.
that would be
because of the
zero landscape required?
Correct.
Except as interrupts in parking areas?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Griffins, did you have a question?
I did. So just with the comment that Rodney had made earlier about the concept elevation being tied to the development agreement, are you opposed to that at all?
The applicant is saying yes.
Okay. What? I need to think for a second. Thank you.
Can I comment?
Yes. I'm so sorry, David. I just wanted to get us through public hearing before we started having discussion.
Well, I understand,
So-
but when that type of question comes, the reality
Well, we're
is,
past public hearing. So I mean, we're still in it, but the public had their opportunity, so.
okay.
Yes.
So responding to Councilman Griffin, the marketplace is going to move these properties, if the sellers are willing to sell, to commercial. And approving what's requested tonight is only the starting point. And the other properties will have the same requirements logically forward. And it will be noted through annexation. I don't agree with attaching the elevation shown tonight as this is what you got to do. From the standpoint, if the market wants to do something different, it requires then the applicant come back and ask council for permission to adjust the elevations because a different use or opportunity lies. So I think when commercial and industrial is happening, I think there's enough design review and other issues that are put in the ordinance to guide. I mean, I just think there's already adequate requirements for reviewing elevations and that part.
I think, and thank you for your comments. I think the question really is, what is covered through our code that staff can do versus what do we need to place on it? Because sometimes our discussions here are actually covered through our code already, through our design review process, to where it isn't that we need to give it from this bench because staff is going to be reviewing that through our processes. I think when we get into an annexation, we just want to make sure that we've put whatever restrictions need to be at this time, not to be overly restrictive, because as Councilman Bills mentioned, the market's going to drive, but to be restrictive where we need to be. So, and sometimes, yeah, not wanting to be overly. Yes.
So then another question for the applicant, now that we're looking at the BC allowable uses, is there any specifically that you're looking at, if we're making a list and a lineup for conditional use, is there any that you are specifically looking at that you're wanting to have permitted, not conditional use?
Councilmember Griffin, can you repeat your question, please?
Is there any of the BC land use allowable or permitted uses on there? Because I know I'm highlighting a few that I would like to have conditional, that you are looking not to have conditional, that you are going through this process specifically because you saw this was permitted and you do not want it to be striked as conditional?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Jeff? Jeff, would you like to make any closing comments before we're done?
This area has a lot going on right now, and I think waiting really served this property well. Trying to understand a little bit better how this will interface with Highway 16, so wanted to give some compliments to city staff as well as the property owners for waiting to really understand a more appropriate way of annexing this property. So thank you for your consideration.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just as a follow-up, Jeff, it was stated as far as the residential, the lack of a setback, not knowing what your neighbors are going to do, but is it your intention or your client's intention to have any type of a residential product on this property? Would you have an issue with striking those items that are listed as bed and breakfast or dwellings, residence halls, those type of things from the matrix of land uses, or do you want them to be left?
Mayor, question back to the council.
I have a question to the
Councilman Haverfield. Candidly, I look at the west side of Nampa, and I see a hotel, a gun shop, another hotel, and then some apartments. and some restaurants. And so I'm looking at that all in a similar zone. And so part of me thinks maybe we don't want to do that. Single-family residence, yeah, it doesn't really make sense in
No,
this area.
this is specifically multifamily up to 3 stories tall. These are listed in the land uses in that. So that's why I'm asking, is it your intent or your client's intent to have any residence type of, whether it's a nursing home or hospice care or something along those lines? Should we be considering that you might be able to want to do that if the need were to be, if someone were to come forward and say, yeah, we'd like to put a retirement home on the backside of this property, do you want these left in the matrix or not?
Councilman Haverfield, I know that there's a couple of hotel chains that are interested in this property. And I also look at like the Affinity over by St. Luke's. That's a more compact product that may be more appropriate to this location.
So it's a yes, you'd like to have those left in the matrix?
Ideally, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bills.
Well, I was just going to, but the applicant has answered it. At this stage, I think you need a wide variety of options, and I think, again, the marketplace is going to move those issues forward. If we start trying to restrict, residential, if you have a extended stay motel want to go on the property, or you have other things that, is that residential or not? And I think we need to leave some options open on these properties right near Highway 16 and at the cross streets, so.
Some great opportunities there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to encourage us to let the market work without getting too restrictive. And again, you got properties next door, they could have cows there for the next 20 years because they're in the county. They could have their chicken and goats causing these folks challenges. And so I'm just trying to look at, somebody's trying to step forward, and it just seems encouraging. I move that we close the public hearing.
Okay. You know what, okay. So there's a motion and a second to close public hearing. Discussion would be, my concern with closing it is we may have a question for the applicant, and then we cannot ask the applicant a question. So personally, I would rather leave this open, so if we wanted to have a discussion and ask them a question, we could, or we will reopen it. So there is a motion and a second on the table. Do we want to move forward?
Yes.
Okay, roll call. Roll call. Well, I'm sorry, all in favor say aye. I'm sorry, it's not a roll call. So all in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so there's one, so.
So Mayor, I would move to approve the annexation and zoning to BC Community Business Zoning at 4379 East Franklin Road for Jeff Hatch Design Architecture, representing Peter and Lynn Glidden, ANN 00299-2024, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Is Councilman Bills willing to add into it the requirement that there's a 20-foot landscape buffer along Franklin?
Well, I think that's conditioned by the staff report.
It wasn't.
Correct. Is it in the staff? Remind us, Rodney. If not, so noted that it is a request to be conditioned
The
as a
same
condition of
thing as
approval.
far as the cross-access agreement for the property to the east and possibly to the west if ITD so requires.
Are you okay with that? If required?
Well, I have a hard time binding this property owner to be subservient to the adjacent property owner because the state of Idaho says it has to be. And I think those are negotiations of right-of-way that should take place between the property owner and the state of Idaho. And I don't believe it's City of Nampa's area to try to bind a future agreement.
Mayor Kling, could I have Daniel weigh in on that topic then?
Crystal.
Crystal.
Mayor Clean, Councilman Haverfield. So according to the approved design plans, both this entrance and the parcel to the east and the parcel to the west fall in ITD's PAC zone, so they're purchased access control zone for this interchange. So according to those plans, the access for this parcel will be a shared access with the parcel to the east. The parcel to the west has its own access. It appears to be right in, right out. There's a concrete median down the middle of the road.
So, Crystal, that joint access along the western boundary, or northwestern corner, is that a shared access with the property to the west?
According to Councilman Haverfield, according to the plans, from what I can see, the access for this parcel is a shared access to the parcel with the east. The parcel to the west has its own individual access.
Even though it was configured with a joint access along the western boundary?
It's the western boundary, yes, sir.
So all three parcels are entering and exiting off of that one location?
May I
No.
pull up a graphic?
West is got its own access, is what you just said. It's only this parcel and the parcel to the east that have shared access. Is that what we understand?
Or is there also, are they also sharing that northwest corner as an access point?
Councilman Haverfield, on the screen shows the approved design plans for this. Somewhat hard to tell because you can't see the actual parcels on it. But this access right here is for the parcel in question. This access right here is to the parcel to the east. And then I'm going to change drawing so like it's going to catch right here. The parcel to the west has this access right here.
So the concept plan would need to follow this ITD schematic.
Councilman Haverfield, unless ITD sells their access control, yes.
Okay. So that's back to my point as far as having a joint access to the property to the east. It would be an assumed requirement that the applicant is already aware of. Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
The last thing that Rodney had noted, and I didn't see it on the condition of approval, was the keeping the landscape plan for a GB1 zone the same. I didn't hear that in the motion, and I know it was discussed, but I just wanted to make sure that was tied to the motion.
Thank you. So Rodney, is it not listed as a condition?
It doesn't appear to be, so I would appreciate that added.
Okay. Do you mind adding that?
So added.
So
added.
So done. Okay. So that is added to the motion. So is there any other discussion? Seeing none, will we close the public hearing? So Jeff, you can go visit with Rodney real quick.
Mayor, is that 20-foot deep berm, is that tied to the motion?
That's the landscape buffer.
The lands, okay.
The GB1 landscape plan.
Mayor? Are we discussing adding any conditional use permits to some of the already permitted items, or are we going to just let the market drive on it?
I think the motion is to let the market drive. So.
Both of my highlighted ones.
Potentially, we should consider ordinance change on that.
So did you get your resolution to whatever that was
Yeah,
before we move
Mayor,
forward?
the question was whether 931, listed as one of the conditions in the staff report, referenced back to the GB zone, and that is not correct. 931 is actually just the standards for subdivision improvements that would be required at the frontage improvements for the roadway, so sidewalk, curb and gutter, that kind of thing. The new proposed condition would just be for the frontage improvements for the landscape berm and buffer. I think that that's what we had talked about in this public hearing, and so I think that they're in agreement with that. as long as it's just the improvements, the landscape berm and buffer landscape improvements that would be required in the GB zone.
On the frontage, okay?
Mhm, correct.
I will just say, because we're not supposed to have a discussion up here that isn't public, so discussion briefly was, the thing that I think some members are not interested in are hookah bars, vape stores, and tobacco being the entrance to our city. That was not in the motion, but I think I'm seeing a lot of head nods here, so I just want the owners to know, while we're trying not to put restrictions on, we don't want to be known, that is an entrance to the city of Nampa, very important corner. That's not what we need to be known for. So, man, if we could put even if a hotel, extended stay, all the other, there's a lot of opportunity with that piece of property. We want that opportunity to be there. So that would be the discussion. With that, if there's no further discussion or change to our motion, okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. Good job. Thank you. We are going to take a 5-minute, what's that?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay, so we are going to take a 5-minute break and come back for the next, and this is so that no one needs to leave during a public hearing. So we're going to do a quick bathroom break for City Council. Let's make it fast, and we'll be right back. Okay, guys, it's been 5 minutes, and here we go. I think we're almost all back. We have a quorum. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the quorum that we have. We are moving on to 8.2 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is de-annexation from light industrial zoning to the county enclave with the zoning to be determined by Canyon County for a .48 acre parcel at 0 Madison Road, and this is for Radix Construction. So is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Go ahead and share your name and address and tell us what your plan is.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and council members. My name is Nick Downing with Radix Construction. And what else did you want?
Pardon?
What else did you need?
Oh, address.
Oh, address. So it would be the 8393 Cherry Lane, Nampa, Idaho. It's the property that we're discussing here. And
Do you want to pull that mic just a little bit towards you? There you go. Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
it's Nick Downing.
Nick Downing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the goal here was, when we purchased the property, we didn't realize it was in the city and the county. We believed it all to be in the same. And so we went to install solar on the shop and needed to get a permit for that. And because it was in the city and the county, they wouldn't allow for it. So that's where this issue was realized after purchasing the property. So the goal was just to de-annex the rear portion of the property, which includes the shop and the well, back into the county. So that's the goal.
So you own the property?
Correct.
Okay, and so I just didn't realize that this other piece was annexed in as part of that annexation.
Correct.
So, and how are you using the property? Is there a home there? Will it
Yes.
continue to be a home?
Yes, there's a home. It's a residence.
Okay.
I live there.
Okay. Is it intended for a business, or is it?
No, it's just owned by the company, and then, we just use it for some construction staging materials and stuff like that. It gave us some layout area.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll go through staff report, public hearing, and then we'll come have you back if we have any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rodney, thank you for quickly explaining kind of how we got here. I think we kind of know, but thank you.
I'll run through it pretty quickly here. Future combination of two properties into one property that they want to just be out in the county, essentially. So you've got two properties here. We'll go into a little bit of detail here, and we're recommending that the city council approve this request. So here's what happened. October 2018, an annexation and zoning to IL occurred as part of the property to the south, 16740 Madison Road, that has since developed as industrial use. A residential shop had already been constructed on the property at time of annexation, appearing to serve the property to the north, 8393 Cherry Lane, which is the applicant's property. October 2018 to 2020, the development to the south, or the subject parcel was split from the larger industrial parcel and given a new parcel number, and the ownership was transferred to Radix Construction. And that's that little area, that blue area that's highlighted there. And then the pre-application meetings were given in 2024, January 2024, and they just said that we just suggested that they are likely going to need to de-annex, and so that's how we're here. So you can see that property there is the blue that they purchased or got deeded back to them. There was an agreement there. There's a little closer view of the property and their shop. Going to put the lighting, or excuse me, the solar panels on that shop there. The comprehensive plan is industrial. Doesn't really matter when you're doing de-annexation, but the use is already residential. You can see the the land uses in that area. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. Here's the new parcel that they will need to create, just including the shop in the back there. Applicable regulations. Canyon County just said, yeah, we need to merge the two parcels into one. So we put that as a condition on this. And there's your condition and a couple of motions for your consideration.
Mayor?
Thank you, Rodney. Yes?
Just a quick question, Rodney. The property, can you go back to the aerial map?
Yeah.
The property to the west, is that in the city limits?
To the IL zoned?
To the west, the connectivity to this parcel that's looking for de-annexation?
No, that is not in the city.
Okay.
It's enclave.
I was just wondering if it needed that connection point to be in the city limits, but it...
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Rodney? Okay. Thank you. So this is a public hearing, and to my knowledge...
Madam Mayor, there is no one that did advance sign up.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this particular matter tonight? Seeing none, this is an opportunity. Nick, would you like to come back and be available? I'll let you give a closing comment and then be available if council has a question for you.
I have no closing comments, so available for questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any additional questions?
Mayor, I do.
Okay.
So need a clarification then. Looking back at the map, if we can get there. So the property to the south that appears to be industrial use, are you in ownership of that property?
No. With the shop that's on it that we're de-annexing? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, further from in the drawing there, it's got the hash or the blue line. That's the piece that you're wanting to de-annex.
Correct. Yes, and I am.
So the house itself is in the county currently?
Correct.
And then the property to the south, that was highlighted in one of the slides. Do you have anything to do with that piece of property?
Where it's showing looks like those big white piles, hay or something, is that?
Yes.
No, I have nothing to do with that. That's purchased by that, I think Bow River Capital owns that for that industrial complex. So they actually left that, kind of that whole quadrant just bare right now.
Mayor, Councilman Bills, so when that was shown highlighted all together, that was because that was all part of the same annexation, and that's when it was brought into the city, that was part of that annexation.
Okay.
The area highlighted in pink here is the parcel that was annexed into the city.
Okay. So need to ask then, was this a separate parcel that you purchased?
No, I guess we didn't understand it when we purchased it. It was two parcels when we purchased it. And no thought was really given to that. Like it was two parcels. It looked like one contiguous thing. And so we didn't know that there was any differentiation and honestly didn't give it a second thought. So it was one purchase of both parcels and there didn't seem to be anything out of sorts about it.
And so your house is on well and septic?
Yes, it's on the well and septic that's actually in the city behind the shop.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All righty.
Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve the de-annexation from IL Light Industrial Zoning to County Enclave with zoning to be determined by Canyon County for a .48 acre parcel number R3100501000 at 0 Madison Road for Radix Construction DANX-00015-2024 with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to 8.3. This is an action item. This is a zoning map amendment from light industrial to community business zoning district and a potential development agreement for 3 parcels. They're totaling 2.18 acres at 2730, 2710, and 2710 Sundance Road for Josh Seavey, representing Gaddis Foothill LLC and Teresa Walton. And the original concept was an outdoor recreation use. So is our applicant here this evening? There you are. Hi, come on down. So as you come forward, please give your name and address, and you can explain the basis for what you're asking for.
Glenn Walker, 1831 East Overland Road, Meridian, Idaho. Madam Mayor, council members, I have kind of a little outline here, so I'll go through, so bear with me. I more like to read than speak out. So I'm here regarding a zoning map amendment request. The applicant is Gaddis Foothill in care of Teresa Walton. The proposal is a zoning map amendment from an IL light industrial to a BC community, a community business zoning district. The location, as you mentioned earlier, is on 3 parcels located on Sundance Road. Per city department comments that we have received, engineering division has approved it, Nampa Fire District has approved it, and the Nampa Highway District had no comment. Per the staff report findings, comprehensive plan compatibility, the proposed map amendment aligns with the city adopted comprehensive plan and comprehensive planned use land use map. The property is within the commercial future land use designation. Surrounding properties are also designated as commercial. Zoning district compliance, the BC zoning district is permitted use zone within the commercial future land use designation. Development context, the area is developed commercially along Caldwell Boulevard with a mix of commercial and industrial use further down south on Sundance Road. The existing building on the property has historically been used for retail, a permitted use in the BC zoning district, and the property is adjacent to Caldwell Boulevard, which is a major thoroughfare through the city of Nampa. Infrastructures and utilities are all there. City utilities are available to the site with existing services lines to the buildings. We hope that this zoning map amendment request will be approved by City Council, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. Council, do you have any questions at this
Mayor?
time? Yes.
Could we get a clarification? You're Glenn Walker, but our documents are stating other folks.
Yeah, Josh is not here.
Okay.
I believe online is Teresa Walton, because I saw her name. So I'm here kind of representing the owners and the owners' reps. Josh, who was the one that kind of put all this together, but I helped him put the documents together. He could not make it, so that's why I'm here.
And this property is across the street from CWI campus. Is that
Yes, it's the old
Maybe it was a furniture store at one
Played
time.
Against, yeah, exactly right. And Played Against Sports was in the space, and they moved out and built a new building. So that's actually the whole reason why we're here, is because Played Against Sports moved out, and back in November of 2022, there was a land use change, which caused us to be non-compliant with some of the tenants that they're wanting to put in this building. And one of the tenants they're wanting to put in this building is an athletic facility gym, and I think it's called Berkshire Fitness, and that's kind of the whole reason why we're doing this zoning map amendment, is to be able to allow the fitness center or the fitness gym to be allowed use in the space.
Right.
And
So
that was the old Played Against Sports.
One time it was light industrial for those type of uses. It's evolved to commercial and.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Just wanted to make sure I had the clarity on, so. that's
Hopefully I
how-
answered your questions.
You did. That's how I saw it, the request, so I wanted to hear from you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor Kling?
Yeah.
Glenn, are there any other uses in the building that are affected by this change?
No, mainly just the gym.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll have you back after we get through the next.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Rodney, seems pretty straightforward.
It is, and he covered much of what I was going to cover, so it's fairly simple. It used to be, actually, it was originally BC when it came in for annexation. It went to industrial for different uses over time, and then now they're just asking for it to go back to the BC to allow for some of those uses. Back in 2022 that he referenced, we had a discussion as council. The council directed staff to revise the code so that indoor entertainment wasn't something that we had in our industrial zones. We're just trying to preserve industrial buildings for industrial uses rather than entertainment or karate instructions and things like that. So that was the direction we received, and we came back and that was approved. So now this proposed use is not consistent with the IL zone, and they're just asking to go back to BC zoning. I don't have much to say beyond that. This is pretty simple, I think. Nothing really is changing except the use. So.
Thank you, Rodney. Are there any questions for Rodney? Yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Ask the question. This is a multi-tenant building, is it not?
Correct. Yeah.
And none of the other tenants are affected by this change to BC?
So no, the entire property is, while it's multi-tenant, they could continue to use that land use however long they want to. But the BC zone actually opens up some things that weren't allowed before. We didn't see any concerns with the land uses in there currently.
That was my main question or concern, is that it doesn't affect someone adversely.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Rodney? Okay. Thank you, Rodney. So this is a public hearing, and?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up in advance.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this particular matter? Seeing none, do you have any further comments? I do not. Perfect. Thank you. I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What is the will of the council?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve the zoning map amendment from IL Light Industrial to BC Community Business Zoning District for 3 parcels, R14990003, R14990004, and R14990005A0, totaling 2.18 acres at 2730, 2710, and 2710 Sundance Road for Josh Sevi, representing Gaddis Foothill LLC, care of Therese Walton, and to adopt the recommended conditions of approval and proposed findings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Hills?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 8.4. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 Single Family Residential Zoning District to make a connection to city water services on a 0.48 acre parcel at 3032 East Railroad Street for Tamara Gonzalez. And is our applicant here this evening? Go ahead and come forward, and I'll let you restate your name and your address, and let us know what you're wanting to accomplish.
I'm Tamara Gonzalez at 3032 East Railroad Street in Nampa. And we want to annex into the city for city water because we had the well, but it's a community well, and we're having problems with some of the people, so.
Okay. And you understand, staff has probably talked to you about the process?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions, council? Okay, you've watched the process, so you can have a seat, and we'll be right back to you. Okay. Rodney?
Mayor and council, I think this is another pretty easy one. You've seen these a lot. Annexation for utilities. So that's what's being requested here. The P&Z Commission recommended approval. Staff recommends approval as well. There we go. So the comprehensive plan shows this is medium density residential. Surrounding zoning is residential to the north and then some industrial to the south, and kind of in an angle there, but mostly you're right next to the railroad tracks, and the area is residential. Services are available to the site. You can see those there. Here's the applicable regulations for annexations. We feel like they've met all those conditions, and then the criteria, and then rezones or zoning, assigning of zoning. I feel like they've met those criteria too. This is the bulk standards for the RS zone. And then the RS 8.5 minimum lot sizes, a maximum lot sizes. Engineering division had some pretty standard comments. They did point out, though, that they're in the floodway of Indian Creek, and so if any kind of development occurs, they're going to have to go through a process to engineer this and say, is it going to raise the flood level? And so that is one of their conditions that they've proposed. Staff analysis, it's pretty simple, straightforward, meets the comp plan. Here are the proposed conditions based on engineering's comments. Here's the proposed findings that are in your staff report. And then I would stand for questions if you have any, but I also did want to point out in the staff report, I just said I had to accidentally put recommend approval and recommend denial. It should be approved or denied.
Rodney, I have a quick question. Other than the Indian Creek, and we'll come back to that one, are there any requirements with annexing and zoning to 8.5 that are existing conditions that they may not be aware of, other than Indian Creek floodway? I guess the concern I would have is to protect a homeowner if they're annexing in, that all of a sudden they have to adhere to some city code in an existing property based on how close they are, fences or whatever, that they may be unaware of.
Yeah, great question, Mayor. I think we've had a pretty good conversation with our attorney about legal non-conforming uses or conditions, and those, if they're existing today under the annexation and they were approved in the county, then there's no concern for us. The setbacks and that kind of thing, they are what they are. We don't pursue any kind of action against them at this point, but if anything were to develop, we'd have to go through some process to get it approved, and they would have to comply.
Any changes or future development?
Yeah, even expansion of that home. If it were expansion, they'd still need to meet our standards. So,
okay.
As it sits today, it's fine. Any changes or expansion would need to go through a process and standards.
Okay. And then just making sure the applicant's aware of that. So no concerns. Then let's, the Indian Creek real quickly. Where is Indian Creek right there?
So Indian Creek is on the far east or northeast of this property.
Right there on that
the
eastern
narrow
boundary?
portion of the property. It's abutting there, and we have a pathway just the other side of that one.
Okay. And so even with the work, thank you, Daniel.
So, Mayor, I received an email from our consultant. It was over the weekend that FEMA got back to us with comments on our application for the amendments to the Indian Creek floodplain. It's not unusual for them to have comments. So, but none of the comments looked like they would cause any hiccups with getting it approved. We've got 90 days that we've got to get those back to FEMA, and then they process again for a little while, make sure the changes were made, and then we would likely see an approval of the floodplain changes here shortly.
Which could positively.
Will positively affect the floodplain in this area.
Good, that's great. We've only been at that how many years? Long time. Thank you. It's important. Okay. Thank you for answering my questions. Council, do you have any other questions? Okay. So this is a public hearing, and
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for this.
is there anyone here that had intended to testify that had not gotten signed up? Seeing no one. For our applicant, do you have any closing comments or anything you'd like to say? Thank you. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the will of the council?
Mayor, I move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS85 Single Family Residential Zoning District to make connection to city water services on a 0.48-acre parcel at 3032 East Railroad Street for Tamara Gonzalez, parentheses ANN 00304 2024, with the proposed conditions and formal findings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. You're done. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move back to new business items. And we will start with 7.5 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign a task order with Parametrics to complete the design for the Northside Boulevard and Karcher Road intersection improvement in the amount of $745,711.94. This is partially approved in the FY24 budget and pending approval in the FY25 first budget amendment. It's been moved and seconded. Crystal, do you want to make your quick comment, or do you want to address it? Go ahead and just quickly tell us what is important for us to know on this, and then we'll move forward.
Mayor, Clean Council, I just wanted to address, I know that there's been some hesitancy and confusion regarding our contracting and how we contract, whether it be qualified-based services or low bid. And so I just wanted to provide overarching clarity. In this case, Title 67, Chapter 23 requires professional engineering services to be a QBS type selection process, so that was how this one was selected. Also, some of our contracts, specifically regarding like CE&I contracts, for federal aid projects, we do have requirements that some of the funding sources restrict us from being able to provide those services in-house. In order to receive the federal funds, we have to contract somebody to do it. So while we use our in-house services for a lot of our smaller city-run projects, because we've been so successful in getting federal grants, you are seeing more contracted services because that's part of the requirements of the grants.
And thank you, Crystal, for sharing that. I thought that was important for council to be aware of, and it was educational for me to really fully understand it. Councilman Haverfield.
So my question is more on the funding side. Is this totally funded under impact fees?
Councilman Haverfield, this project is 55% impact fee eligible. We're front loading and doing the design with impact fees, and then the bulk of construction will come with a federal freight grant from ITD.
So the federal grant, those are dollars that are yet to be received, or are they in our pocket right now?
Those will be received when we move into the construction phase and start and do that state-local agreement, but they are in the approved ITD tip.
It's a certainty that we'll be getting those dollars then.
I mean, nothing is ever a certainty until the year that is appropriated, but all roads are leading towards that part of the fund.
So there's no city match with any of the federal grants?
There is some city match as well, 7.34%.
So is that an amount that we need to consider at a future date?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we understood where the dollars are coming from, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
7.6 is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor and the public works director to sign a task order with the right-of-way specialist for the Ustick Road widening project. This is Phyllis Canal to Oahe Storm in an amount not to exceed $73,600.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
7.7 is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor and the public works director to sign a task order amendment with Keller and Associates to provide design and construction support services for the Copper River Irrigation Storage Pond and Pump Station Upgrades Project in the amount of $252,620, time and material not to exceed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been
Question?
moved.
Question.
Yes. Councilman Bills, then Councilman Rodriguez.
So as I read this, this is to sign a task order amendment. And so I'm trying to understand, is the amendment, the 252 and whatever was signed prior is already much larger, et cetera?
Mayor and Councilman, so the original contract was the $133,000 for preliminary design. The amendment to the contract is the final design for $252,000.
So they got part of the design done for 130, but now they need another, almost double that to finish the design?
So this project needed some preliminary design because it stores water for our system. It also is an upgrade to the station nearby. It's also, we were looking at what property to purchase, so there's property acquisition, research, and communication with the property owner involved. So that was a preliminary portion. If you remove, I mean, it just is just a ballpark, but if you look at the entire cost of the scope of work, and then you remove the property acquisition portion, it's right around 10% of the total construction cost. So just a ballpark. We've worked with Keller before. We did an hourly examination of the work they can provide. We did our due diligence, and so, yeah, it's totally funded through grants, but we're watching closely our costs on the consulting side. And as Crystal mentioned, it's qualification-based selection. So, we selected off our roster. We went through the state protocol of choosing an expert in that area. We negotiated with them. We came to a contract agreement based on the qualifications, and then state code says you have to come up with a reasonable cost too in the end, or we go to our second person on the list. In this case, we worked out an agreement with Keller. So,
thank you.
Are there,
So-
yes,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Mayor. So the perception is this, that we already paid for preliminary design in December, $133,822. And then the final design is $252,620. So that makes it look like we're paying $3,432 in the total concept of this bill. But, so it kind of looks something's wrong here. So, but there was more to it included in the final design, right? And that's why it came up to 252.
Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez, let me clarify. So we did the preliminary, sometimes you would do a preliminary scope of work when we don't know enough about the project yet. So let's say if the original estimate for this project was $5 million. So if we went right into final design, they would have provided a lot of risk in there because the identification of the project wasn't nailed down. So they did this first preliminary design. We found a property, and then they could do a better estimate. It came in at almost $2 million less than that. The overall contract is much less than it would have been. So it was just it was the most efficient way to do it. And a lot of times we'll call it like a pre-scope. We don't have enough information about the design of the project, so we'll do that. We'll come in with a better estimate, and we'll have better design costs based on, hey, we have a good picture of what the design is going to be, and there won't be as much unknown, which leads to, if you have unknown in a contract, they're going to put in risk dollars there. And so in this case, we reduced the overall cost of the project to the $3 million. So.
Okay, follow up, Mayor.
Yes.
So of the 133,822, did you have any money left over?
Yes, sir. So Mayor, Councilman, so what we have, the city engineer level oversees the project management. So the PM reviewed this, the assistant city engineer reviewed it. In this case, the city engineer took a look at this one also, and then it goes up to me and we review those hours. And we've done this since I've been here, but specifically with the cost increases we're seeing, This is also, it's also hitting us on the engineering side with all the cost of construction. So we understand that, and we're watching it closely. We have in the state statutes the ability, if these come in too high, reasonably, or outside of our range, we go to the second consultant and we negotiate with them.
Okay, so I think that just was my point, that you are doing more to it, but you just didn't explain it completely in the numbers here. So thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm good, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? I believe we did have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
7.8 is an action item, and this is to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Erminger Construction for the Middleton Road Lift Station 19 in the amount of $468,187. This is approved in the FY24 budget.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Pingula.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
We have no unfinished business and do not have an executive session, so I believe we have concluded our agenda for this evening, and I would stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
No, I said